Welcome into Film Tank, the weekly podcast that covers both new and classic cinema. If you would like to get in touch with Film Tank, you can always email us at filmtankshow@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Film Tank Show. And you can listen to all of our episodes on our website, filmtankshow.com, or on iTunes. And now, here are your hosts, Nick Cheney, Toussaint Egan, and myself, Alex Diekman. Hello there again, and welcome into part 2 of our Top 6 2018 episode.
Sequels are all the rage.
Literally our only things that are ever seen in movies.
You know, we should do a remake of our first part.
Okay. So,
I'm not going to pay attention to you right now. Alex, please, yes.
We've done this every year, and it is
Sound like my parents.
seriously one of my favorite parts of the year is thinking about these little things in different aspects of films and then mentioning them, and it's so much fun to do. So why don't we start right off with our list, as I think there's 13 categories we decided on this year. Yeah. With Best Male Actor, since that was the first one I have written down. Want to go in the same order we went in on the first part of the episode?
Yeah.
Do it.
Go ahead, Toussaint.
So my best male actor of this past year is, surprise, surprise, Ethan Hawke in his role as Ernst Teller in First Reformed. Holy fucking shit. How the fuck was he not nominated for this? Because it is incredible. Oh my God. I'm so fucking hype even thinking about this film. I want to watch it again. Yeah.
You're making me want to watch it here.
Yeah,
man.
you should, because it's fucking good. Yeah, it's great. Oh my God. When he, there's that, like, Nick, you've seen it, right?
Yep.
Like the scene where, his one female friend is like trying to comfort him and talk to him and stuff, and he just like
Alex would love that scene, so I wouldn't even say only because that's gonna be the one scene I actually thought of you.
Yeah,
when I watched it.
That's.
But
that's
yes,
Alex's
I know what
score.
you're talking about when he has a very direct conversation.
Oh
with her.
my God, it was so awesome. This movie's so great. Oh my God, fuck the Academy. Yeah, but that's my best male actor.
Thank you, Toussaint.
Yeah.
Mine is kind of a tie for two different avenues of acting, and that would come down between my first, which would be Robert Redford in The Old Man and the Gun.
Okay.
So many times I feel like this kind of performance is so bad and phoned in because it's kind of what I would call a legacy performance. It's where some director who's of talent and whatnot comes along and it's like, you know what, I want to do a project that for a late actor who hasn't had a great role in a while to really go home on, you know, like to just remember what we loved about him and or her, and to kind of just, I don't know, sail off into the sunset, so to speak. And to be quite honest, that's what this is for Robert Redford. I mean, it's called The Old Man and the Gun. It's kind of this vague nostalgia ode to a cinema and to a world that's from a bygone era, but Robert Redford is still so fucking charming in his old age, and frankly,
No plastic surgery had there.
no, and but he just
He's old.
He
like,
is.
Isn't he like 85 or something?
I think
like
he's
that?
older than that.
Yeah.
I think he's in his 90s or close to 90. Close to 90.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's old, and then there's scolding a inanimate object old.
He
No,
easily looks like he's in his early 70s.
But is
Agreed.
he yelling at a chair?
No, but unlike
Clint Eastwood does not look like he's in his early 70s.
And unlike Clint Eastwood, in my opinion, Robert Redford is still capable of delivering a good performance. And The Old Man and the Gun is no exception. It's such a loving ode to a kind of crime film that no longer happens anymore. And yeah, he was just fantastic in it. So I just really wanted to mention
Robert
that.
Redford is turning 83 this year. by the
Okay,
way.
so he is in his
a
80s.
little bit
But he
younger.
Forever young.
So the other one that I was going to mention is that I also can't shake Matt Dillon in The House That Jack Built. The complete opposite of Redford's just kind of calm, subtle demeanor. Matt Dillon is just laying on this kind of autistic, sociopathic, deviant killer, and it is uncomfortable because his performance just fucking hurts. I mean, the social awkwardness, the just awful philosophical musings that he completely sells his conviction in, and so on and so forth. I just think Matt Dillon was like, I was already sold on the movie because of the casting, because I've always thought of Matt Dillon as a weird dude, but he actually doesn't just settle for that. He gives, I think, one of his best performances in a decade or so. Like, this is just maybe one of the best roles of its kind, because never before have I seen a serial killer be so sociopathic and yet so within himself, having his own personality without being like crazy. It's just uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
So Matt Dillon.
I would agree. So my best male acting performance actually is a little bit under the radar, but I was considering somebody else. But at the same time, I just kept coming back to this same person. And that was Nicholas Hoult in The Favorite.
Okay, yeah.
And he delivered, I actually thought, the best performance in the entire film, even though a lot of people, and rightfully so, loved Olivia Colman, Rachel Weisz, and Emma Stone.
I still need to watch it.
It's good.
Yeah. It is not the best work, I would say, from Yorgos Lanthimos.
How does it compare to The Lobster?
It's probably in the same ballpark for me.
Oh, okay.
For me.
For me, his previous two English language films are better.
Yeah.
I feel like this one is somehow his exact brand of weirdness and obscenity, and yet also made palatable by its historical regalcy.
Yeah. That being said, I do know two people who have seen this who are not into film and thought it was one of the worst piles of dribble they've seen. So
that's why I'm kind of surprised it's gotten as big as it has. Like anyway.
Yeah. At any rate, this film is really driven home, well, partly by its Yorgos Lanthimos bizarreness, but also by the 4 acting performances, and Nicholas Hoult is sort of completely under the radar within this own film. But at the same time, first of all, he's just a wonderful actor just in general. And he delivers a supreme performance here of being the white male leader while at the same time having to be under 3 women in a way. So he's playing the leading male card and being the voice of a lot of things, but at the same time having to go for permission to 3 different levels of government almost at this time, with the queen and her 2 maids that are under her. And it is such a weird performance, but also such a power struggle with him and the 3 of them. And he goes through this weird, it's almost like, somebody like growing to a different size and then shrinking down based on their confidence level. Like, there are points of this film where it feels like he is the king of England, and then there are points of this film like it feels like he's a servant at the very lowest level. And the way it plays, with the way Nicholas Hoult plays it, is just so wonderful. He's also definitely, for me, the funniest part of this film, and it is very uncomfortable at a lot of parts too. So he is giving a crackerjack of a performance, but at the same time,
Crackerjack.
A somewhat easy to see why things continue the way they do, because he's just kind of continuing with the traditions of white male of yesteryear while we have to play along with the fact that there's a queen right now. So yeah, he gives a great performance here, and I just thought he was fantastic. So Nicholas Hoult in The Favorite was my favorite male actor of 2018.
You cheeky cheek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God.
Damn.
Whoa. What is happening? Craziness. All right, moving on to our favorite female lead.
Okay. My favorite female lead of the year was Toni Collette in her role as Annie Graham from Hereditary, because holy shit, she knocked it out of the park. It was just a descent into madness. Fuck the Academy. God damn. Ooh. My voice is a little sore right now, but I would have
We can tell.
Yeah, but it's just it's so She dominates that film. It's so much like the. God, I can't make words to like describe how fucking incredible she is in that role. She makes that film. She owns that film. Just when she's like the one scene where we're talking about where she's yelling at her son, just like unbridling herself of all this like pent up anger and resentment and rage and just like despair. And I'm just like, fuck. This is almost, oh God, if it wasn't for the supernatural elements, this would be the most terrifying and heartbreaking part of the entire fucking film. And really, it is. So, yeah. She's great. Toni Collette. That's my best female actor.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
My favorite female performance of the year comes courtesy from an actress named Madeline Brewer, who played the main character in a Netflix-acquired film called Cam, where she plays a cam girl.
Oh, yeah.
Does that for a living, and she finds herself.
Oh, she's the girl from.
With the dragon tattoo.
No, not that one. She's the girl who is a supporting character on a TV show that I actually watch, Handmaid's Tale.
Yes, she is. Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, she played a supporting character in there and in Orange is the New Black very briefly.
Yep.
And she is fantastic in this movie, Cam, where she, in the first 7 minutes alone, we get an uninterrupted session, basically, where she is camming with her followers and supporters. And she, like, I know the film was co-written by a person who is actually in the industry and did cam for a living for a brief spot, but it also, that authenticity can only go script far, and you still need an actress who is going to sell that level of human just I don't know, a laborious kind of work, and she absolutely sells both avenues, which is the woman who is terrified of losing her own identity and sense of self as the kind of surreal Black Mirror, Twilight Zone-esque plot is happening, but also as the just rising star in her particular website of someone who is taking this community for what it is, which is supporting her and enabling her to live the life she wants to live, but also not looking. There's nothing from her performance that has like an air of superiority. Like, I'm playing this to show how the others live or anything like that. It's just a completely lived-in performance, and it's fantastic. And she has to do a lot in this movie, and she nails every single part. And frankly, that movie was in my top 10 until I just knocked it out, because I don't know that it completely sticks its landing, but it is completely worth watching through and through, especially because of her performance. So that was Madeline Brewer in Cam.
I need to watch that.
You should. Everybody should.
I need to like take a personal list of like all the films that we've mentioned across this episode and just like watch them, because like I've been meaning to see these films. So yeah. Yeah.
That's why these are fun. It's a good snapshot.
I know. Yeah.
I already mentioned it, so I don't have too much to say about it, but the best female actor for me was Claire Foy in Unsane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the other one I almost said.
Yeah. She delivers a just wonderful performance, and even though I haven't seen it, I know she's done good work on The Crown. I obviously also loved her in First Man, but at the same time, she is just really delivering a terrifyingly strong performance here in this film, and it is wonderful to see and wonderfully delivered. I mean, I think she shows why, is another reason why Steven Soderbergh is such a wonderful director, because of what he can get out of actors playing these very, I don't want to say bizarre, but very unusual characters. I'm not saying that because of this being a film about mental illness, but also, too, this takes a different approach at that than most films of its ilk would kind of try to do, and she does a great job with that. So Claire Foy in Unsane was my favorite female performance of the year. Time for everybody to have fun and do a slam dunk here real quickly. on our least favorite film of the year, or worst, whichever you want to call it.
Okay.
This should not be hard for most people to do.
Okay. It's just a race to the fucking bottom. Mine is actually a split between two. The worst films of the year for me were Vox Lux and the Cloverfield Paradox, which was so bad that I erased it from my memory until it was mentioned in incidental conversation via this recording that I needed to then, like, I then needed to put it.
Well, spoilers, it is my worst film of the year.
Yeah, okay, so let's just talk about this a little bit. Vox Lux, I think that the framing device of the beginning is it is grotesque, it is gratuitous, and none of that energy and none of that horror ever manifests into anything which merits its existence, which actually, like,
what about the fucking weird and bad narration by Willem Dafoe?
You know, that's one thing. I really like Willem Dafoe, and you know, there's so many parts of this film that had they been arranged or reconstructed in such a way by somebody who was more capable, like I could see myself, like I would have fucked with this film if it had been just a better film, but it's just an awful fucking film that just exists for no reason, that has a milquetoast commentary on celebrity culture, on pop idolism of the millennial like generation. I think that it is just it's honestly just manipulative, and from its beginning, because I'm just thinking, I'm more mad about it looking back in hindsight and thinking about what that film actually did with that energy and did nothing with it, that I feel like, why would you make me have to watch that scene and see that happen and then to do absolutely nothing with it?
The problem with Vox Lux,
it's a lot.
To go off of what you're saying, is that I'm in on the first scene because
right.
Is
it going somewhere?
It goes in on the idea of school shootings before they were a thing,
right?
And I'm interested. I'm in on what this is going to go towards. Unfortunately,
where does it go towards, Alex? Where does it go?
Unfortunately, that's where I jump off. There.
Yeah.
And actually, the film for me is not ruined, but it starts going in the wrong direction right after that.
Yeah.
Because we have some gorgeous shots of ambulances driving to hospitals with wonderful music behind it.
Yeah.
In the opening title sequence.
And they have the title sequence is them scrolling through all the fucking credits that would usually go.
So you can't.
It was fucking weird.
So you can't see the wonderful cinematography they've done.
Oh my god.
And it is like, I'm just like, holy shit!
Someone is hitting the auteur juice a little too hard.
Is Nicholas winding Refn in the room?
That's what I thought.
What is going? Stop it!
Look,
you know.
Here's what I'd say. Like, as much as I had unkind things to say about the Neon Demon, in hindsight and being able to just take at faith what he was trying to do with that film, I feel as though he did more with Neon Demon than whoever the fuck directed this film did with Vox Lux. I don't even know who directed this film. Who did this? Whose fault is this?
It was an actor, wasn't it? Like, it was his first.
Yeah.
I forget where he came from, but he's some random.
Yeah. I will say, I was bummed because I was really looking forward to this because I really do think Natalie Portman is a fantastic actress.
Yeah.
And I really don't think she's actually the biggest problem with this film.
Right.
But that being said, she gets brought down with the ship here.
Yeah.
I will say really quick, I haven't seen Vox Lux, and I don't plan on it. But this is not the same medium, but because I'm that person now, I will say if you want a good look at the idolization of pop stars.
Ooh, what are you going to mention?
And whatnot, I would say that I would recommend reading Kieran Gillen's comic, The Wicked and the Divine.
Yeah.
Which is much, much better at what I assume Vox Lux is.
Oh, absolutely.
Going
it's
for.
So fucking good. I love that comic. Anyway, just wrapping up the whole Vox Lux thing, I hate that fucking film. I did mention Cloverfield Paradox. I'm just going to make a note just to transition to Nick. While I hated Vox Lux because I just thought it was such a gratuitous, grotesque, manipulative, and ultimately just underwhelming piece of film. I find Cloverfield Paradox as damnable, if not more so, because not only did it sour myself on a film, but it also jettisoned all the goodwill I had at the perspective of a Cloverfield multiverse right out the fucking airlock. So, for more on that, Nicholas.
Yeah, the Cloverfield Paradox is not even on the bottom of my list. There's actually 2 films below it.
Wow.
But this should have been a slam dunk for someone like myself who enjoys these kind of anthologized sci-fi tales of craziness.
This is right up your alley.
Especially one that deals with quantum physics.
Right, this is right up your alley.
For this movie to not only waste an entirely good, diverse cast, and have no idea what it wants to do with its own plot, let alone its connective tissue to a fucking franchise. I think why this is my worst film of the year is because it does all that while also completely wasting what could have been a revolutionary evolution in its always escalating marketing campaign. And the idea that it didn't just literally reach the top of Everest, but it accidentally tripped and is now just falling down the side of the mountain is just unfortunate. And God, I never want to watch this film again, but I think I could be persuaded to with weed or alcohol. So it's not the worst film I've ever seen, but it's easily the worst try I've ever witnessed.
The reason why you put it, even though there's like 2 films below it, is because you actually had expectations.
One will be mentioned, I'm sure. The other one, I will say, is A Wrinkle in Time, which was actually at the very bottom of my list.
Damn,
and I just have never seen a film not actually start.
Damn.
It was just a blue screen the whole time.
That's the funny thing about that is I will kind of remember.
It also has Google Mabatha in it.
From the Oscars last year when they literally stop a production of that so they can have all the people bring in random things during.
That's why those people were fucking freaking out and excited because they had to watch that and they were like, "Oh God." Oh, celebrities! This is so much better than what we were watching.
Guillermo del Toro is walking in with a fucking
sub
3-foot sub sandwich, and somebody just got they turned off Oprah on the screen. It was just like,
yeah, I would have been the same way. Normally, that would have pissed me off. Like, I don't care who's coming in my theater. Even if it was Paul Thomas Anderson, I'd say, Paul, wait in the lobby. But if it was that movie, I would have been like, come on in. Got a birthday cake. It's pretty good.
Well, don't want to.
My worst film of the year had really no competition, even though Cloverfield Paradox is second on my list, is that movie was terrible. This film I thought was completely awful, and I don't understand what happened here. And that was Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
That was my other one.
It was so bad. This is what happens. Like, films are so bad that I erase them from my memory because I don't need that shit on my hard drive. And then you're like, damn.
Yeah. Kenny, who is the biggest Jurassic Park fan I know of, tried to have a conversation with me about it, and I slapped him back every time. And I'm like, well, I hate to do this, but
I'd rather talk about Donald Trump.
What's he up to today?
I already thought this movie was terrible, but then they decided to just think they had some great thought when they were like, what about human cloning? Hey, are any of these people real? Fuck.
I just...
God damn. And not the fact that this film's final scene went on for about 55 minutes, and this film only really had 3 total scenes in it, too, was really weird. And also, too, this film decided to have its climactic fight go on for about 14 seconds, even though the final scene is 55 minutes.
Remember when we went to go see it in the theater? And it was one of those sit-down restaurant kind of theaters.
They had cosplayers?
They had cosplayers for this.
Like, how embarrassing is that? To have to walk out of a theater.
You couldn't even do it for the
like
good
that.
Jurassic World film.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh my God!
That's one of those where I was like, I hope they brought a gun.
Jesus.
Remember the one like dinosaur that cried when it was left to die on the island?
That actually wasn't that bad. That was like
Your
the
worst film of the year.
Yeah,
Why are you going to bat for this?
Oh no, that was the sole bright spot was the dinosaur.
Because the dinosaur had a way out, but we didn't.
Yeah, no, that film was just.
He got off lucky.
You got to suffocate to death from smoke inhalation?
Oh my!
Sweet. First I've ever heard of that. He got off lucky.
Damn. Yeah. We have to live with it.
We had to watch the
call
rest
it
of that.
Velociraptor.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Not much more time is needed to be spent on
Yeah.
that. Okay. So, moving on from worst film, we go to a category that I think all of us will enjoy, as all of us really do appreciate good cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is everyone's best cinematography of this year?
My candidate for best cinematography this year was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because I think that it goes hand in hand with why I think that this film, even with its weaknesses, and I think that it does have weaknesses, I think that it is one of the best Spider-Man films, is because there's a sort of verticality with Spider-Man in that he's able to climb walls and stuff like that, but so far when we have seen those kind of portrayals, we've only seen them from like the same level of our orientation of us like actually standing on the ground. We only see him like climbing up the walls. We don't actually see the perspective of him and what it looks like to him. Trying to explain this as well as I can.
It kind of reminds me of like a Mario 3D platformer where Mario, I know this sounds really fucking stupid.
No, yeah.
But where the orientation changes with our protagonist to show how normal this kind of movement is.
What's the one musical where the guy is like dancing on the actual
that's the whatever with
Fred Astaire.
Fred Astaire. I forget what it's called. It's something wedding.
Yeah, something wedding. Yeah, but like that's sort of like what I'm getting at, where there's a scene where Miles Morales is talking to Spider-Man and they're walking along the side of a building, and there's an establishing shot that just shows how uncanny and weird this entire situation is, but it's just such a benign like scene of exposition and just like moving into the next thing. But it's able to highlight what is so interesting about this character in a way that feels ambient, that feels natural, and that it's not a matter of like special effects spectacle, like them just navigating and web slinging and stuff. It's just the most benign way of characterizing something that is so extraordinary and something so natural to this character. And I just don't feel like any other Spider-Man film, with maybe the exception of maybe Spider-Man 2 with that whole like train scene, actually like even grasps after that in a lot of ways. Like that's only one example of how well I feel like the cinematography communicates value about that character and what that character can do and what their relationship is to everybody else around them. So yeah, it has to go to Spider-Verse for me.
Yep. My pick for best cinematography is Unsane by Steven Soderbergh. Yeah. It's obviously it's not going to be an all-timer in the one perfect shot echelon, but
is it echelon or echelon?
I like to say echelon because I'm like that.
Okay. Oh, you're like that.
Yeah. I just think that what he does with iPhones is really fucking cool to watch. Nothing is like outside of an iPhone's like comfort zone. It's not like he's like trying to make it more than it is, but because he is a veteran auteur, because filmmaking is so ingrained within him from both his knowledge of film from watching it, because that's one of my favorite things of following him as a filmmaker, is that he always posts at the end of a year every single piece of media he consumed, so you can see every episode of television and every movie he watched that year, and you just see that he breathes and exudes films. but also from the films that he's made and learned from. He just, because that is so ingrained within him, he can shoot with anything in any situation. So to see him do it with iPhones should come off as gimmicky, but it really never did. It just looked great.
The fact that he is doing his next film on an iPhone is a little worrisome to me.
I feel like it's less worrisome and more just that he kind of saw that it worked, and like he goes through phases. I mean, he does his color tinting phase, then now he's doing his iPhone phase. Like he is someone who, when he gets on the playground, he goes up and down the same slide 5 times because he just finds it so fun. But eventually he'll go to the monkey bars, and and I'm okay with that personally because he's not gonna like stop even if he says he's retired.
Clearly.
I know. So, Unsane was easily the most I was engaged with cinematography.
My favorite film, cinematography-wise, this year was Revenge.
That was thought, but I'm excited.
Yeah. I thought that was a beautifully shot film. I thought the framing devices throughout it were basically flawless. And really, the thing that makes this film stand out from other films is that scene in the catacomb cave, whatever you want to call it. That is just one of the more beautiful scenes that I can recall. And
lighting.
Yep. Yeah. And it just, everything plays together and leads to wonderful looking film on screen. And a lot of other things play into it, but yes, the blocking, the framing, the lighting, everything leads up to just a perfect-looking picture on the screen. And from scene to scene, night to day, this film really hits it all and is just beautiful to watch.
I mean, this goes from just gorgeous vistas to a worm inside an apple slowly eating away his carcass.
But the great thing about it is it starts with the warm vista and goes to basically the end of the earth. It literally falling on a dead tree and having to cut that out of her own body. And then ends back at the hotel in a much different way than we started.
Yes, it does.
So, yeah. Revenge was awesome, and it was actually not that hard of a choice.
So good.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so for next, best visual effects.
Best visual effects?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I must have missed that one. I don't know how.
Somehow I don't have that one either.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think I don't know how I don't know.
Okay,
what
well,
happened.
I'll go, and if you guys want to think of one,
Yeah.
All right.
go right ahead.
Yeah.
So this is a category that, to me, feels like it's getting somewhat ruined by the Academy, as they look at this and see, best CGI, great, and I feel like it goes so much deeper than that. Obviously, CGI is a very important part of visual effects in a lot of big budget films, and also smaller budget films to a lesser extent. But practical physical effects and also just creating good stunt work throughout films is just as important as creating this great look on screen, in my opinion. So my 2 picks for this year for best visual effects were a tie between Mission Impossible Fallout, which I thought looked wonderful, and a much lesser known film, but definitely a film that used CGI in a different way, and that was Upgrade.
Yeah. With the mounted camera?
Maybe.
Sorry?
That was like a deafening silence.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. That was just hilarious.
Yeah, just like, how dare you like that aspect of that
I
film?
think we were both just trying to remember.
So
When
you're thinking of the Lee Winnell film, right?
I was thinking of the film where the guy gets an upgrade and then he has to
Are you
fight.
talking about Hardcore Henry?
No, I'm talking about the guy who gets an upgrade when his wife is murdered.
Yeah,
and
that's the Lee Winnell film. Okay.
and like he gets knocked down and he's on the floor.
Yeah, I mean they
Right.
do that kind of movement.
Yeah.
So yes, that is that was a staple of some of the action sequences. You were correct.
Yeah.
But the
Damn.
I don't know why we both just like froze.
the
Did you just?
It's like being in high school again and be like, you can't sit with us. What the fuck? I've been here for the past hour.
have you.
The fight choreography going along with the actual movement of the camera, and also just the different way they're able to play with there is just so wonderful. And even though it's not necessarily the first time we've seen anything like that, it does feel super authentic in the way that it's presented in this particular film. And even though there obviously is computer-generated imagery throughout this film, it really feels like this is really happening. And I think that's important. And it's I'd way rather watch something that's created like this than something like another Transformers film that just like, look it, we created a CGI building. It's like, do we need this?
I heard that the last one was really good, which why didn't
Bumblebee?
Yeah, I heard it was.
Right.
I heard it was all right, and I was like, man, it's like they should have just.
You're grading on a down curve. Though.
Yeah, I mean, like,
it's not hard.
The last thing I will say to go along with the two that I had as a tie is my special mention was all the effects that were done for the documentary "They Shall Not Grow Old."
Oh my God!
Which,
yes,
dude, that is painstaking hours of getting exact details right, so you can watch an actual film happen on the screen in front of you.
I echo that sentiment. I think that would be my. That would be one of my two favorite special effects this year.
And that's the thing, is that you need to look at it as a sum. Like, it cannot just be who did the best work with computers this year. Like, that's not right. Like, people did a lot of incredible work and did things that were really outside the box.
Yeah,
and
changed the shape of a film.
And that
made a film possible.
That made it look different than something you've not never seen before, but make it look like something you are excited to look at, because it's not just Chris Pratt massaging a fucking fake Velociraptor, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
This is creepy.
I thought that was going to go in an entirely different direction, and I will not say that on the mic. Anyway.
Or another example of that in a film that I absolutely loved, like Infinity War, where Josh Brolin wasn't on set, and yet they had to interact with him, which is so fucking weird. That's just one of the... I'm going off on CGI here a little bit.
No, I'm just thinking about Sir Ian McKellen just like crying on the set of The Hobbit, and this makes me sad. Anyway, continue.
One of the more famous shots of the awkwardness of CGI and also motion capture is
Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, Emma Watson walking down with Dan Stevens as he's almost looks like the fucking Michelin Man walking down the stairs with her, and it is so awkward.
Yeah.
So, yep.
I was going to really quickly throw out that if I chose something which I'm choosing right now, it would be Annihilation.
Okay.
I feel like that entire finale is built on the integrated and seamless use of special effects. It's not to say that obviously it sometimes doesn't look like an uncanny valley, but I think that's also makes it work, and I feel like the special effects works. If I'm seeing a finale like that and I feel like I haven't seen this iteration before, like, that's a success. And for it to do that, I think throughout the movie with some of the effects of the shimmer and some of the and monsters, or whatever you want to call it, the creatures, I should say, and the floral stuff that's on the planet. It just, that part was really never in doubt when I watched that movie.
Another thing that's about that final scene too, to go along with the special effects, and it really does play along into something that I think that we're going to eventually get into with films, especially in theater presentation, which is creating ways to involve other senses in things that you're seeing on the actual screen. The bass and the actual like feeling in the theater of that.
Yeah, the music was fucking...
The music behind it, going along with the images you're seeing, like created this really, just very weird and like it created the feel of what it would be like to be Natalie Portman in that room.
I will say that in the book there is a scene that is similar to that, in that there is a creature that exists that you're trying to wrap your head around, and like through the description of it, and it was like legitimately, I remember reading it. It was the closest like to like a psychotropic experience through literature I've ever had. Like it was fucking bonkers, and I feel like that will always be more visceral in book form than film form. But I'll say that the film it's on that level. Like it definitely knows what it's aiming at. Whether it hits it directly on the mark, I can't really say. But like it knows exactly what the fuck it's trying to go out for, and it does a pretty damn good job. Yeah. For my favorite special effect, not outside of just the They Shall Not Grow Old stuff, but the faux stereoscopic filter on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That was going to be my other choice.
Because I feel like it really. That effect was so fucking good and so comprehensive and so exhaustive that Sony Pictures made a concerted effort to patent the software that allowed them to be able to produce that effect for future films. Now, whether or not that'll actually ever like come to bear in anything other than this, like the fact that the strength of that effect was so distinctive and so like consummately defining to that film that they had to patent the software, the proprietary software that like allowed them to do it, says to me that that was a pretty damn great special effect, and it's something that I'm always going to remember having seen it in the theater. So,
right on.
Yeah.
Good times. I would ask more, but I'm going to finally go see it in a couple days.
Yes, I will not tell you anymore.
Right on.
Yes.
So best film trailer of the year, one of my favorite things. Did you also not do this?
No, I did that one.
Okay.
I
did
just
this
assuming
one.
we're going to have the same answer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I was actually reaching out to some colleagues, like thinking about what were some of the best trailers that came out this year. And after going through a lot of the candidates, like one of the trailers was so good that it actually made me finally sit down and watch the film proper itself. And that was the original teaser trailer for Widows, because it has this really like interesting, like glitchy, like EDM, like sinister EDM, like take on a Nina Simone song in the background, and it has like this really awesome like highlight reel and just shows like all these casts of characters like working together with one another, and it was just really, really fucking good. Like it's just like I'm thinking about it right now. I'm just like, damn, that was a really great sizzle reel that sells you on a film without telling you how it ends or how stuff really like plays out. Like it's good. So yeah.
I'm guessing you also have Mission Impossible Fallout?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It is pretty much perfect.
Yep. I did have a runner-up, as I thought the first initial, not the teaser, but the first full-length trailer for Mary Poppins Returns was something that turned the page for me on that film, and it made me extremely intrigued to go to the theater to go see it. And the ending of that of Emily Blunt saying "Here we go," falling back into the bathtub, which apparently they actually
the real
did.
bathtub.
I
That should
know.
have probably actually been mentioned in our visual effects little conversation.
Yeah.
Because it was a real bathtub. So many things that you think are CGI in that movie are probably not actually CGI. They were really underwater for a long time and lost a lot of kids, but it was worth it.
God damn, dude.
But no, Mission Impossible. That trailer is. I don't know, man. I don't know if there's anything that could have gotten me more pumped for a film. That was just fucking great.
I agree.
I mean, the scene on top of... Oh, God. So good.
Yeah, it's like if you don't have time to watch Mission Impossible Fallout, you can just watch the trailer and get your high.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
What is the next category?
The next category is a category that I think Nick will probably like, and I think you picked this one out last year, and that is best use of a song.
Yeah. I always have an answer for this.
Yeah. My best use of a song, and again, I don't want to spoil anything more for Alex, because I know he's about to see this film. Mm-hmm. But my favorite use was Chemical Calisthenics by Black Alicious in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Simply because it's set during a school scene, and it honestly made me so very hyped in the theater. Like, I went to go see it like twice. I went to go see it with you, and then I went to go see it with my friend Adam. And we were just geeked over that scene because we listened to that song, that exact song, when we were in high school. And not only that, but the subject matter and the wordplay in that song so perfectly matches up to what is going on in that scene. It's just like it's such a pitch perfect like licensing. So I love that song.
My choice for best use of a song
Yeah.
was found in a little film called The House That Jack Built.
Oh, boy.
Which was Hit the Road, Jack. Because as a stinger, I just think that, honestly, Lars von Trier is one of the funniest people making movies right now. And I think that this is another example of that. Like, I don't think you can love Lars von Trier if you don't take him less seriously than the people that hate him.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a movie like The House That Jack Built proves that, as far as that he's working a lot of time, not all the time, in a form of black comedy. And that stinger of a closing credits song is so fucking perfect of a needle drop that I was just gobsmacked that I didn't think about it beforehand, you know, and that I couldn't predict it, especially because he keeps repeating fame. So you have that earworm literally blocking any possible part of your brain that could make room for any conjectures as to how he will end it. Because he does a lot of famous needle drops at the end of his film. He famously and controversially did it at the end of Dogville with David Bowie's Young Americans. But here, it's just fucking pitch perfect. For that to be the final punchline in the saga of Jack is just... is both satisfying as a narrative ending, but also, I think, tells you that Lars von Trier hates himself more than you possibly could.
Oh, yeah, probably.
My best use of a song was Hit the Road, Jack in The House That Jack
Hey!
Built. Yeah. I think mostly why I liked it so much is the stark contrast in the tone of that song between the excruciating final scene of that film, which is, like, somewhat, for the audience, at least in my opinion, you feel a bit of, like, this is probably what he deserves. But at the same time, it is somebody going through hell and finding out that, you know, you've heard a lot about this place, but really this is just a shithole that you're going to burn in for the rest of time.
Yeah. Unlike your art, you really can't make this to be more than it is.
No. And
it is what it is. It is the sum of your life.
Yeah.
Which isn't much.
Yeah, and him just falling down the tube, just like many of his fallen Star Wars friends, is interesting enough in itself. But then to smash cut basically to that song, just ding, 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 I don't know.
It doesn't work
is,
either
yeah.
if you don't spend at least, which we do, 30 minutes in that elongated epilogue.
It's such a jarring, like, fucked up, like...
Yeah.
So no, that was pretty fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I was a fan. So and I really did like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
But that part
That's just kind of a no contest.
Yeah. So moving on to the best film score.
My favorite film score of the year was Suspiria
me too.
by Tom York, because I have a funny little anecdote from this, because Dario Argento actually commented on the remake, and he said that there was no fear and no music to it, and that it gave him which is the most powerful shade I've ever seen thrown. Like I reposted it on Twitter, and I was just like, a fake quote that says like, no bops, shit don't even clap in the whip, and I was just like, god damn. I love that score. I love Volk. I've actually listened to like Unmade like multiple times. I think it's a fucking great score. And I'm not just saying that because I like Radiohead or that I like Tom York. I just think that for the film, it was so fucking good.
I'm tired of Radiohead and Tom York since In Rainbows, and yet I love this score. So.
Yeah, I feel that. Like, I feel, In Rainbows is definitely like the last time that...
I don't dislike anything they've done
right.
after it, but I don't particularly care.
Right, yeah. I feel that.
I will also say one other choice was a tie with this, was also the score for The Old Man and the Gun, where David Lowery actually... I remember there was an article written about it that was kind of fascinating, so I don't remember all the details, but it is a original jazz score, which is really unheard of these days. I mean, certainly, first of all, to use jazz, that's not obviously a common thing, sadly, but especially
you talk about white people save jazz.
Well, that's true. I take it back. But to actually come up with original compositions and to trust in that.
I know that you can't hear it, but I am loudly, silently judging my two co-hosts right now. Just
oxymoron.
Just the most. Yeah, it's kind of an oxymoron. It's like take away the oxy, and that's what I think of you guys.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to make you feel a little bit better that the Academy seems to be somewhat done with Damien Chazelle. After they said, you won, you didn't win. Oh, by the way, next time when you think you've got it with Neil Armstrong and everything, you're done. Get out.
Yeah.
Get out!
Get out! Get out!
I was going to wrap it up by...
Oh, my God, it's us.
By saying that...
No?
To do
Nothing?
No, what were you saying?
I said, oh, my God, it's us. And then
because that's the name of the next Jordan Peele film?
No, because that's the line that they say in the trailer.
Yeah, I've got 5 on it. Anyway, continue.
Okay.
You only saw the trailer once.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm sorry. Please continue.
No. I was just going to say, for it to be an original jazz composition and not just... which is very common too, to take old standards and kind of reinvent them. It's just, it's pretty striking, and it fit the movie perfectly, and it's a score that I would actually listen to outside of the narrative of the film, which is kind of what I look for in a score.
Nice.
Some scores do work beautifully in a movie, but just don't fucking matter outside of it. So.
Yeah.
Well, I would say my choice for top score would probably fall into that category, but I love it just as much the same, and I like it because... it gives me the feel of when Hans Zimmer made a very unusual score for the film Interstellar, where he understood that people were giving him shit for every single film, be like, boom, boom, boom. And then he went in a very different direction in Interstellar, where I feel like this film went in a different way than its predecessors, and that is the score in Mission Impossible Fallout, which I absolutely loved.
Michael Giacchino? Or no? I know he did 4 and 5. I want to say maybe he did 6.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Sounds like your favorite score.
I did not do my very good homework on this.
I'm going to look it up while you keep talking.
Okay. I really enjoyed the high school, college-esque drumming that's heard in the background throughout this. I think it adds a lot of originality to this score, and also originality to the ideal of moving through an action film, as you have this constant, repeatable thing that you can come back to that isn't like a refrain that continues to happen in the same song that continues to pop up over and over again. You get the same kind of notes in drumming, but it also has subtle differences that make it sound the same, but also can make it go backwards and forwards, and it was pretty wonderful.
I guess it was done by someone I had never heard of before, named Lorne Belf.
Okay.
And apparently he had done scores for things like 13 Hours, The Secret Soldier of Benghazi, and Penguins of Madagascar.
Okay.
He's got range.
Yeah. And then I did have a runner-up, and this is super random, but I also enjoyed it because it fit really well within the content of the film it was in. And that was by Tatiana Lizava.
So you want me to try?
No, I got this.
Okay.
Tatiana Livaskaya. There we go. That's pretty close.
All right.
Her super sad score that fit really well in the Vincent van Gogh film At Eternity's Gate. A film that nobody saw, but at the same time, I thought was a wonderful portrait, of a extremely depressed man who really did just want to paint and show his view to the world. Mm-hmm. So it was a actually pretty solid film, but also the score really mirrored well with the rest of the goings on of At Eternity's Gate.
Can I add one more really quickly?
Okay.
The other score I absolutely loved, and I think it's also very unfortunately timely, but was Johan Johansson's final score, which was the score for Mandy, which was honestly my favorite thing he's probably done as a composer, because that is just an ethereal, psychedelic, but also beautifully somber piece.
Just as a note, to tie back to our episode on Mandy, I actually went to go see Mandy again in theaters. I fucking loved it. I did not fall asleep. I rescind my criticisms of Mandy. I fucking love that film, and Alex actually gifted it to me. So thank you so much, Alex.
I also gifted you this year's redo of The Predators.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that.
First of all, I thought this year's version of The Predator was Harvey Weinstein.
Lord.
I'm really sorry, Tucson.
No, it's okay. You got to take the lemons with the you got to take the lemons with the lemonade, I guess.
Well, that's how you do it.
Yep.
Okay, so let us talk about
favorite scene
of the film of the year.
So my favorite scene of the year was from If Beale Street Could Talk, and it's between Stefan James and Kiki Lane in their roles as Fonnie and Tish, the basically main couple of the main characters of If Beale Street Could Talk. And it's just this young couple who is trying to find a place together, and they can't because a lot of landlords are racist, and a lot of landlords just don't want to have blacks in their building. And finally they do actually find a studio like warehouse sort of apartment and stuff where Fonnie can work on his sculpture, and hopefully, Tish can like do what she wants to do with that. And it's an interesting scene because it has Dave Franco in it, and he's this Jewish guy, and he shows them this place, and he's like, "Oh, you sure about it?" And she is not enthused about it at all, but it was wonderful because Tish and Fonnie love each other very much, and Fonnie is able to see something in that place that she's not able to see immediately, and she's like, we could put our bed here, and we could put our table right here, and the camera actually like moves down, actually looks at the floor, and while he's actually describing the dimensions of the table, right? And there's a scene where there's a part of the scene where he's like, all you need is a stove, and it's like, hey, can you help me with this? And he walks through this other space, and they pantomime lifting up a stove, and he's like, honey, can you like open the door for us? And she opens the door for us, and it's this really tender and endearing and funny scene about how love opens up possibilities in spaces that we otherwise would never see ourselves in, and allows ourselves to build something out of what seems to be seemingly nothing, and to see a future that is possible that we otherwise could not have ever seen before. And I thought that was the scene of them coming out and just like shouting and screaming and laughing, and there's streamers above, like hanging across the street. It was euphoric. It was absolutely beautiful. I went to go see this film on a date, and it was okay, but the film was good.
Well, that is immortalized now.
Yeah. Guess what? It's immortalized now. Yeah, we should talk about my story when I went to go see the movie Her on a date.
Oh,
yeah,
that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Wow, yeah. That's why it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I love that scene. It was incredible.
Well,
yeah.
I watched my scene with my pants off on my couch by myself. And my scene is about a person who loves himself so much that he unfortunately doesn't care about other people and what will happen to them in his own, as collateral to his own ascension, and that is the final rap battle sequence in Bodied.
Wow.
It's just a
Did you really watch it with your pants off?
Yeah.
That's all.
Wow, he did the eye twitch and everything. He did the fucking what is the name of
That's called a wink.
No, I'm talking about the Cuba Gooding Jr. like
the inventor of the wink. The final battle rap sequence of Bodied is fantastic. Every character arc comes to a close, but if I'm just going to even narrow it down a little more, it is the final rap battle between our two newfound friends who basically lose everything in the span of 4 minutes, and it is just fucking beautiful and awful at the same time. So.
Yep. You've told me specific things about that, and boy howdy is that uncomfortable.
It is.
Yeah.
Certainly.
So mine actually was a tie. believe it or not. Between the opening scene of the movie Paterno, which I mentioned in our top 6 episode, which is, even if you don't really love the rest of the film, the opening 12-minute scene is absolutely fantastic. And the other scene that I was going to include is the climactic scene in Revenge, which is just fucking fantastic.
Yep.
As someone who is all about just extraordinary two-person fighting scenes that include excessive amounts of blood, that scene delivered everything that I could possibly want. And boy, when you kind of look at the landscape of what the damage is to that room afterwards, it is a fucking horror show. And then you think about this. I feel like the helicopter pilot is the same helicopter pilot from Ex Machina. Yeah. Who's just going to show up and be like,
what the fuck happened here?
Something not so chill happened here.
I'm too old for this shit.
Those guys are gone. It's just me, but I've got a vagina, so it's fine. And he's probably like, come on down. You're the next contestant.
Hired for a job.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. The dude, though, before he's killed, his final, like, why can't you women just leave it alone is just, that is so uncomfortable to watch.
And actually, that ending part actually is, and I mean, there's other violence that is certainly of this ilk, but that is the most gratuitous moment, probably, when she shoots him and he literally flies about 15 feet down the hallway. Yeah. It is awesome. Quentin Tarantino-esque, and it is pretty wonderful. Yep. So, no, yeah, that line, though. Boof. Boof. Yep. That's where we're at right now. Yep. Okay, so up next is our most underrated film of 2018.
Most underrated film of 2018?
Yes.
I would say that it is a toss-up for me between Widows and Shirkers.
Okay.
Widows, I feel like, deserves more appraisal. It deserves a more generous appraisal than it's gotten, simply for the fact of, like, I feel like the level of talent that has been attached to it may have sort of, like, offset sort of, like, how we are actually grading it along a curve, respective to what the participants have done in the past, rather than see it for what it is, which is a good, serviceable, like, film. Yeah. And Shirkers, I haven't heard anything much of Shirkers.
It was hard to see for a while.
Yeah.
And clearly got barely.
It was hard to see for a while because it didn't exist.
I guess.
Yeah.
And it also wasn't clearly advertised as well because I had no idea it was on Netflix, even though I'm one of the target audience.
Hey, guess what? That's Netflix's whole fucking deal. Yep. It's a fucking problem.
It sure is.
Yeah. That's the future of film. Anyway, yeah.
Yep. My most underrated film is a 4-way tie. I'm going to name 4...
Damn.
I'm going to name 4 popcorn flicks that are genuinely worth seeking out as long as you expect mediocrity. Okay. But is Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again was actually a good musical, and it was much better of a movie than the first movie, which is one of the worst films I've ever seen. So take that for a grain of salt, that I hated one movie, but also very much enjoyed that one.
I love Peter Rosenthal's take on it.
Yes, you do. The other another movie, Instant Family with Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne.
Oh, yeah.
That was honestly how you do saccharine drama. It was a adorable family comedy that...
you would have not gone and seen that without...
No, like my mom wanted to go see it, and then I was like, okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pleasantly surprised, and I would watch it again. Mm-hmm. And that is the movie when your entire extended family is in one room, and for some reason you all have to watch a movie. Like, you could do worse than a property that tries to cater to everybody.
Yeah.
The first Purge, it is the best Purge film.
Yep.
It was a good modern blaxploitation film without actually trying to be that.
Yep.
And it was just a good little movie about these times that we live in.
Yep.
And I highly recommend it, especially the climax, which is kind of John Wicky, and it's its main character gets to basically go up into an apartment complex and fight his way up.
I echo all of these endorsements.
Yep. And the final one is the comedy blockers. Everything like Game Night and even to an extent Tag got quite a lot of buzz and whatnot. But blockers was that was 2017. No, it wasn't. It was 2018. All right, good. For a moment, I flashed back for a second. No, but Blockers was an actual...
Very early. It was in February.
I was going to say, it felt like a year ago, but that's why. Yeah. But it was a very little scene, but female director, female predominated cast, because all the three daughters, and it just had a wonderful balance between the adults and the teens, and even people who I kind of feel like could tank something, like John Cena, who is usually good in his little bits, but here had to be a main character, was actually decent, and it just had a lot of fun moments, and it was not afraid to be raunchy, which obviously can be bad in a lot of stupid movies, but in this instance, actually just kind of we haven't had this kind of raunchy good in quite some time. So I think Blockers is worth a watch.
Very good. So my most underrated film...
Five-way tie, you bastard.
It's only two, believe it or not. Is a two-way tie between Paterno, which I, again, think everyone should see, and also Overlord.
Yeah, that was definitely... I was going to do 5, but I didn't.
No, that's okay. That's fine.
But no, that was definitely...
No, it was definitely felt like a very original, unique film, and it also was done well. So it was too bad that not as many people saw either of those, but I am really happy that I got to see Overlord in the theater, because there was not a really good chance to see it in the theater, but the fact that, was able to see it and didn't have to go 60 miles to see it was pretty cool that I was able to do that. So those were my two picks. So now we've done the most underrated. How about the inverse and the most overrated film of 2018?
Okay.
Why are you looking at me?
Tucson's got 6.
No, I have 2.
Okay, first of all, I'm sure Aquaman is one of them.
I don't think that was rated.
No? I felt like he went pretty hard on Aquaman on Twitter.
But I'm saying as far as people actually
I went pretty hard on Aquaman in my Letterboxd review.
I thought you were going to say I went pretty hard on Aquaman in my life, but that's all right.
On my life, too, yeah.
A lot of people thought that a lot of people really liked Aquaman.
Yeah, and I can see why they liked Aquaman to that extent. It just didn't do that for me.
Gotcha.
For overrated, I'd have to say, unfortunately, Avengers: Infinity War or Black Panther.
Wow. Okay.
I
almost said Black Panther, but I'm white and I didn't feel comfortable saying that.
It's okay, buddy. It's okay.
Sorry to bother you.
No, it's anyway.
That would have actually, to me, been one of the worst Best Picture nominees in a while if it weren't for Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
I think that's helping its cause.
I think that to sort of just be succinct in this, I think that I don't give a fuck about anything that happens in Avengers: Infinity War, and when they all die at the end, I'm just I was actually looking forward to seeing a culling, to actually see some people visibly die on screen, because you have the one scene in Age of Ultron where it's Tony going for the vision of people on a mound out of a body, and see the invasion forces descending on Earth, and it's wow, that's really affecting. That itself was more affecting than any one fucking loss in Infinity War, with the exception of Gamora. Gamora was an actual it was a hard loss, but the only other people who die are supporting characters like Heimdall, who I'm gonna miss, but it's fucking what's his name?
Loki?
No, Heimdall, the black guy. Yeah, Idris Elba. He's got other shit to do. Let the man go. And Loki has only been kept around for as long as he has because he's a fan favorite. And you know what? It's time to retire that character. I'm glad that he had an ending that he did. Whatever, it's fine. Move on. Gamora actually felt like it had an actual loss, but there just wasn't. For me, the proportion of meaningful deaths, principal deaths, to actual on-screen deaths that will come back eventually is just fucking galling.
Yeah, we're literally seeing the trailers for the next movies already.
Exactly. So. And I'm like, why the fuck should I fucking care? And you're gonna have the fucking gall to have fake promotional grief counseling at fucking Comic-Con for this bullshit?
Well, we're all just dust in the wind.
How fucking dare you? You must think I'm a fucking child. Anyway, with Black Panther, I loved Black Panther. I still love Black Panther. I feel as though I think that it is, in my opinion, one of the better, like, live-action MCU, like, superhero films. That being said, there are some parts that have not aged well. Like, some of the special effects were just not complete at the time when the film actually happened, and I didn't notice it until coming back to the film.
The look of the people, like, standing around when they're doing this ceremony is like
it looks like a Final Fantasy FMV from like circa the mid-90s.
I will say,
which was impressive in the mid-90s, but like
the Spartacus TV show has better background CGI.
And I've seen that show, and I agree with you. And that's kind of fucked, isn't it?
Yeah, because that was one of the laughing stocks of that show, was having to have coliseums of people, despite the fact that it had such a shit budget.
Right.
And yet, actually, I feel like it kind of worked for that show. Whereas, if you're MCU, you should not have to.
We should do better than this.
Yeah, they should do better. So, unfortunately, I feel like the most overrated film is going to... It's probably going to be a constant for a lot of these Marvel Cinematic Universe films, just because I feel like
they get talked about the most.
They get talked about the most, and then the content mill churn just keeps on pumping out those hot takes, and I'm so checked out. I'm done. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I have my one good superhero movie that I had this year that I really fuck with. Like, let's just call it a day, man. All right. I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
My most overrated film is A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
I thought it was okay. But I'm not understanding the Bradley Cooper hype as a director.
Neither is Spike Lee.
Well.
Yeah. You see that fucking photo of him that looks like the captain from Jaws about to hunt the great white Bradley?
Yeah. He made an okay film based on a long line of
better films.
Yeah, and in my opinion, I genuinely do like Lady Gaga in it, so I do think what she did with what she had was great. Obviously, the music included, but the movie, in my opinion, has a great first half hour and then succumbs to white boy pain, because that I don't understand how this tale ends up being more about Norman or Jackson Maine than the actual character it should be about. And I'm sorry, but this version of Maine is a dick. It doesn't matter if he's sober or he's drunk.
Fucking Star Trek? What?
But he is an asshole, and I never really cared for him as a person because he is trashing what's her name's character, Allie or whatever.
Yeah, when Andrew Dice Clay is has the moral high ground.
Yes,
you know you done fucked up,
and yet
you really fucked up, fam. You may want to take a step back.
And yet the entire movie is predicated on the idea that he's this hidden angel, and it makes no sense because he did not earn that whatsoever. I just thought this was a bad it was a good movie that was unfortunately sunk by some very bad choices in the remake department, because I don't think Bradley Cooper himself truly understand what made the past versions good.
I think something that's interesting about this, and this goes in the Academy Awards, is it was nominated for lots of them. I think it was 8. I want to say. I'm happy that Sam Elliott was nominated for a Best Supporting Actor award, but I don't think he should have for this film, because I think he's done much better work in a lot of other films.
He's also... What did he do in this movie?
Nothing.
He had one driveway conversation. That's it.
He's got a couple other small things in here that were good.
But were they really supporting what this film was doing? No. I mean, it's just...
I really like Sam Elliott as an actor, though. So
I do, too.
I was really happy that he actually got nominated for an Academy Award. But when I was, like, sad because I was like, somebody got passed over that gave a much better performance just because we wanted to give credit to this film.
And I still, to this day, don't fully understand the relationship between Sam Elliott's character and Bradley Cooper's character.
Well, they're brothers.
They say that, but they don't really act like it. And I don't mean that in the way that they're estranged and whatnot. I'm just saying, like, he mumbles the exposition. And it's just a fucking weird movie to me. It's got some decent scenes and some good songs, but overall, I do not understand anyone who sits up there and says that Bradley Cooper is some kind of tour de force. He made a movie, and while I do think he shows promise, this is like most of the greats, whatever you want to call them, directors, made better first films than this.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. It's perplexing to me.
Yeah. I think people like...
Fuck Bradley Cooper.
I think people like Bradley Cooper, so I think that's part of it.
I know, and that's fucking stupid.
And I think also, too, what this film has going for it, which is why, mainstream-wise, this got really, it got through so easily. And it's very interesting that I don't know about the very first one, but these are films that are driven by their female leads. And this is no different, which is why Bradley Cooper and all of his... No?
They should be driven by their female leads. And
if you look back at it, Judy Garland and...
James Mason.
No, I was thinking of the next one.
Barbra Streisand.
Barbra Streisand are what you think of when you look back on it.
I agree.
And I think 10 years from now... the first thing anybody will think of when they look back at this is Lady Gaga.
But I think that's because of her acting, not because of her character. Like, people are more amazed the same way about Bradley Cooper.
Well, that's just stupid.
It is stupid. But that's what I'm just saying. They're having a similar moment here, which is that Lady Gaga has never been taken seriously in the public eye at large. And so here she gives a fantastic performance, doing what she does best, too. Mm-hmm. And Bradley Cooper is now... also, the guy from the Hangover movies getting to make this serious issue movie and being behind the camera. So they're both being treated the same.
Let me get a look at you.
So first of all, that line is actually in every iteration.
Yeah.
And yet only he makes it sound creepy. Like James Mason,
only his ham-handed delivery was able to turn it into a meme.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is that I think what really just put the final nail in the coffin for me was the suicide, because before the suicide, he, in this version, basically is reacting to the evil agent who says bluntly, yeah, you should probably kill yourself. I know that wasn't his exact line, but that is so fucking beside the point of any of these movies that the main character doesn't kill himself because some devil comes into his living room. It's like, it's supposed to be because they realize on their own and almost accidentally and cognizantly that maybe the person that they love most would be best off without them. And the fact that some random stranger is able to say it and no other reason is just fucking stupid.
Yeah. So, my most overrated film of the year was pretty easy for me to land on, and it was Hereditary.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I listened to you guys throwing rose petals at it, and I very much understand that, as just like with something like It Follows years ago.
Do you think it's a horror film?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you.
I am in the minority on this film for the most part. That being said, I just really didn't care for it.
Yeah.
So... I appreciate that most people really enjoyed it, but I thought the last 30 minutes were for the most part stupid. And
that's fair. I think that's fair.
I just didn't love it, and I just don't see what everybody else sees in this.
I like going back and making fun of the last 30 minutes because the naked guy in the closet who's just smiling at him is still just the funniest fucking thing about that film. Just the creepiest fucking thing. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I've got don't have much more to say about it. I actually do think that there are parts of Hereditary that are very good. The two scenes that we referenced on the previous episode, I think, are both fantastic scenes. But yeah, that ending, I just couldn't care.
Yeah.
So, yep. Moving on to our last two categories, the first of which will be our least favorite ending of the year.
This is difficult because my least favorite ending of the year is also my most favorite ending of the year. It's that polarizing. I know. It's that polarizing. And who would it be other than First Reformed? First Reformed's ending,
Your number one movie of the year.
Yeah, my number one movie of the year.
Least favorite ending?
Yeah.
And most favorite ending at the same time?
I would say I would fold these two categories.
To be fair, I've seen the movie.
I would fold these into...
The ending is my least favorite part of that movie.
Yeah, I was like, I would fold these two into not just best or worst, but rather what was the most polarizing ending for me in that way. So I'm talking about the merits and the demerits of that ending. All of the rising tension of the ending of First Reformed, I loved all of that leading up to the eventual climax, and the climax took me by surprise so much, and then ended so abruptly that I bought this through Amazon Prime. Yeah, I know I said fuck Jeff Bezos, but guess what? We are all trapped in the belly of this terrible machine, and the machine is bleeding to death. When it ended, I was like, wait a minute. Is something fucked up with my purchase? Do I need to get this refunded? And no, I actually went back, and I was watching this at night, so the screen was dark, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And so trying to reconcile that, and I'm just I'm not sure how I felt about the abruptness of that ending. It really kind of left a sour note. But everything up to that point, I was so on board with that, and I still am. I still think it's a great ending up until it ends. You know what I mean? It's fucking weird. The other side, on the other side of that ending, I just feel so weird by that choice. But everything on the preceding side of it is just so. This is great. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. So that's my candidate
for least favorite and favorite.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we should just continue that trend, and I'm just going to say what my least favorite
That's right.
and favorite.
Okay.
Separate.
Sounds
my
good.
least favorite ending in a movie is the ending of Blind Spotting. I had heard a lot of talk about it. It's the film that stars Daveed Diggs and his apparently lifelong friend, who I forget, but he's a white boy. And
White Boy Diggs.
Yeah. And it's such a good it could have been in my top 10 for the first 75 minutes. The last 15 minutes completely turned me off and really lost me because it really went out of its way to tear up all the good faith I had bestowed upon it for being a wonderfully lived-in drama, contrivance-free, and just kind of meditation of friendship and race and the intersection of those kind of awkward boundaries and whatnot. And then the last 15 minutes just went... I don't even know. It's if I explained it, it would sound weird on paper, so I'm not going to.
You must be misunderstanding this thing.
It must be. But literally the climax of the film has Daveed Diggs' character rapping his thoughts, even though he wasn't really a rapper. I don't know. Anyway, not to mention it happens during a very out of left field, contrived, writerly moment. So it just fucking tanked for me, unfortunately. Okay. My favorite ending, don't need to talk about it much, is the entire Virgil sequence of the house that Jack built. From the moment it starts to the depths that it goes to obviously the stinger of Hit the Road Jack. That is just a tour de force of trolling filmmaking in a way, and yet it's also the least provocative part of the film, which is I love that kind of double-edged sword. It's it's
so mundane and so sedate almost compared to the insanity of what preceded it. My favorite part, just a moment, is like my favorite part of that is when there's the sort of like cinema verite of them like going into the water and then
GoPro.
and then popping up. It felt like, "Hi, I'm Virgil, and this is Jackass."
Yeah, it's such a random, like, he plays.
Welcome
around.
to Jackass.
Yeah. No, but he does, and that's kind of felt like that was a throwback to his Dogma 85 days. And just like the sequence in that really tall red room was also kind of a Melancholia homage. Like, there's a lot in that entire movie and also in that final sequence, but I think it's gorgeous and fully realized, and I would watch an entire film made out of it.
So I have a runner-up for my least favorite ending of the year, and Toussaint will probably co-sign this, and that is the ending to the film Vox Lux. First things first, it just ends with a performance that she's been working her way up to on this kind of, it was just like one day in the modern times that we're in.
Yeah.
Also to the girl that plays the younger version of her plays her daughter in the modern time version, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's an interesting casting choice. That was like when it reminded me a little bit of when what's his name?
Our children just end up inheriting our own mistakes. That's the sort of the vibe that it's going for, I guess. Yeah.
Did you guys know that Mr. Glass's mother
is younger?
Like 10 years younger or 5 years younger than Samuel L. Jackson.
They always underestimate the mastermind.
Just wanted to let you know.
What's his name?
Now that's a mother.
What's his name? Ridley Scott did a Robin Hood movie like 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he had this really stupid idea of having Russell Crowe play both Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham. Luckily, he didn't do that, but that was one of the dumbest ideas I have ever heard. And he kind of went full on then when he made The Counselor, and he was just like, oh, I've got stupid ideas. Anyways, that was not a great choice in that film, but the final scene is this performance, and I felt bad because I didn't know how I should be feeling about the actual performance, because that's what you are really watching, even though there's other things happening and there's narration and all that shit. But during the final performance that Natalie Portman's putting on and she's doing and whatever, and even though she's getting into really stupid, nonsensical shit throughout it in her narration, she was really proud of this final scene, as her husband, who is a dance choreographer who she met when she was filming Black Swan, choreographed this final scene. And I was watching this, and I looked at Toussaint when we left, and he said the exact same thing that I said, which is, that looked terrible.
Yeah.
There was just some about everything that happened in that final scene where I was like, I guess maybe they were going for that, but I really don't think they were.
Even the songs fucking sucked.
Yeah.
And they were written by Sia.
Just the way you said it was
Had
great.
no bops.
They sucked.
Not
and they were written by Sia.
I mean, Sia writes really good songs when she wants to, but I'm just like, did she just fucking phone these in?
I don't know. Here's what we want.
Yeah.
No, that I just the whole thing didn't really work, but that ending was just a real limp dick. The actual
just right across the finish line.
Yeah, sort of. The actual worst ending of the year actually was a film that I didn't hate, but an ending that was super stupid, and that was the ending to the film A Simple Favor. I just thought the way that the ending played out was really dumb, and then there was this really odd denouement that featured the awkward neighbor running over Blake Lively's character, I believe it was, with a car. And I just don't understand what happened there. So there were some decisions made in that, but they were not good ones. So I was not a fan of that ending, and I thought it was dumb.
Yeah.
So the last thing we will have on this 2018 episode, and the last 2018 thing we'll probably talk about for a while, was my favorite ending, and that is the ending to a little movie called Upgrade. I love the way of the setup of the ending, and it has a very clear path that it could go down, and it goes a different direction, and decides to really just have the villain win. And that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I spoiled it for anybody who hasn't seen it, and if you haven't, you should see it because there's a lot more to it than that. But this film is fighting an uphill battle, and then when it reaches the peak, it can't reach the top, and then it ends. And I thought it was fantastic, to be honest with you, because Logan Marshall Green, is that his name? Yeah. The Tom Hardy lookalike.
Yeah.
He is fighting to almost be to a spot where Joey Pants is in The Matrix, where he kind of just wants to be ignorant and just pretty much be dead for the most part. And after the endless inner turmoil that he has with the machine that's taken over his body, eventually the machine wins, and then his body's basically just a surrogate for murder and destruction. But yet he's happy and at peace in his own mind. And I honestly thought it was brilliant, and I love that ending. And it was very. I won't put it in the same category as something like Seven, but it was a very icky walk-off moment that I kind of loved.
Damn it, you just reminded me of my other favorite ending of the year.
Okay.
Which was Unfriended Dark Web.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to spoil what it is or really talk about it, because I think if you haven't seen it, you should watch the whole movie and unspoiled. Yeah. But it has a similar vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, that does not, the Unfriended Dark Web finale does not have very many positive prospects for the future.
No. It sure doesn't.
No. Which neither does Upgrade.
I was gonna say, but Upgrade also, I kind of forgot about that was the ending, and now I kind of want to rewatch it. So
yeah,
yay!
It's pretty fantastic, I thought. So, if you out there were listening to this and any of the categories or all of them you had thoughts on, always feel free to send them to us at filmtankshow@gmail.com. We would love to hear them and talk about them on an episode in the future. So, thank you very much for listening to both of these episodes. We love doing them, and we'll be doing them for probably as long as we do this podcast. So look forward to 2019, a year from now.
Whee!
Yep. So from Tucson, Egan, Nick Cheney, myself, Alex Diegman, thank you very much for catching up with us here on Film Tank, and we will be catching up with you next time.
See you in the next year.
Okay.